Welcome to our session, Navigating the 2021 AAFCS Conference Proposal Submission System. So thank you for joining us today. We decided to do this session as a resource to show you how easy it is to submit a proposal, and because we updated our content strands. So the 2021 conference is bound to be a stellar one, and with the professional development that truly fits our evolving FCS world. We look forward to receiving more submissions this year, even more than what was submitted last year. So we have some key information on slides, and we're also leaving plenty of room, plenty of time, pardon me, for your questions before the end of the session. So now I'll introduce myself. I am Sandra Andrade, the Associate Director of Conferences and Communications here at AAFCS, American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences. Also joining me are Nancy Bach, Senior Director of Communications and Marketing, as well as Lori Myers, CFCS, an Interim Executive Director. Please be sure to let us know who you are by signing the chat box with your name, organization, and state. Thank you. So today we will focus on the online proposal submission system, which will allow proposals in 3 categories. They are educational sessions, board and business meetings, and community and group events. And we're going to provide an overview of the entire conference, the educational sessions, and the process of the submission system to encourage more submissions. So now I'll pass it over to Nancy.
Thank you, Sandra. First, I want to just say thanks to everybody for joining us on a Friday afternoon of a holiday weekend for some. Thank you so much for being with us. We are very excited about this presentation this evening because we are going to, as you know, record it and use it as a resource for other folks. It's really our goal to be able to increase the number of submissions that we get for our conference this year. So there's a lot of excitement in the air. I'm sure you've read by now the communication that came out from our president, Liz Mullins, that we have made the decision, the very difficult decision, I might add, to transition to a virtual conference. And so the good news is that gives us a lot of opportunity to even have more educational sessions than we had last year. And so as we're walking through the slides today and leaving plenty of time for your questions later on, we just want to be sure that you have a good footing so that you understand our draft objectives for the conference, and know that we're still working on dates, we're still working on registration fees.
And we have 4 examples from last year's conference. And as you can see with some of the titles, they definitely touch on our content strands. And we'll go over that in just a moment. So please do take a moment and review some of the bullet points here that describe what an educational session is. So now I'll move over to the timeline, and I'll give you more information after this session if you do have other questions about what an educational session is. So here is the timeline, and as you see, the process started in December. So that would be December 21st, and it will end March 15th. We are about to open the proposal submission system on Tuesday, which is January 19th. And we are still in the process of looking for reviewers. So if you are interested in being a reviewer, we put out our announcement on the Members Open forum, as well as Fast Facts. So be sure to stay in the know by staying in touch with those 2 sources. So again, with the timeline, as you see, the proposal submission system will be open January 19th through February 9th. As you see, the content strands were updated for topics that that affect the FCS world at this time. And you will see that they are targeted areas of professional development that we seek for the 2021 conference. So some of the new focuses that you see touch on diversity, the pandemic, and the hashtag FCS success campaign. As you look over the content areas and practice settings below, we just want to remind you that it is ideal for proposals to fall under these content areas. So I'll just give you an extra moment to look those over. And now for the process. Here are a few factors to keep in mind as you go through the process of this proposal submission system. So number one, you'll want to submit your proposal online in your My AAFCS account before the deadline, which is Tuesday, February 9th. Be sure that your proposal content fits one of the session strands. Collaborate with presenters and panelists from outside organizations. And selected presenters will need to be available to speak on any day of the conference. If you do encounter a conflict on your assigned date, we will do everything we can to find another time and date for your session. So now we'll move over to the other part of the process when it comes to reviews and the rubric. So Lori will cover those.
So thank you, Sandra. Before we talk about the rubric and how your proposals will be scored, if you don't mind, we'll go back to that previous slide, Sandra. Thank you. There'll be some information that you'll want to have before you begin entering the information into the online submission system. As Sandra mentioned, your session will need to align with one of the conference strands. You'll give your session a title and a description that we'll be using in the conference program. Additionally, you'll need to provide the presenter information. So you can have yourself and then up to 5 additional presenters. So a collaborative approach is always a wonderful way to engage other presenters. As you saw in one of the slides, you will have an opportunity to identify your preferred presentation format. Some of our sessions will be live, others might be pre-recorded. As Sandra mentioned, you'll need to identify the appropriate content area and practice setting that is targeted for your particular session. There is also a tool there. All of our sessions must have learning objectives. So up to 3 learning objectives. And so we encourage you to use Bloom's taxonomy as you look at building learning objectives at various levels of complexity. And then you'll provide a session outline and then additional information about the relevancy and the value and maybe even the inspiration for your session. So with that information, let's move then to the next slide and talk about how your session will be reviewed. Our proposals for the educational sessions are all blind reviewed. So as Sandra mentioned, we are looking for reviewers for each of the 5 strands. Even if you submit a proposal, you can still review in other strands. So the blind review, our reviewers will not see the presenter information, but they will see your session outline, your description, and your session details. And so what will they be scoring your presentation on? First of all, they're going to be looking at your learning objectives and whether there are clearly defined objectives and outcomes for the session. You can see there's a potential for 10 points just on your learning objectives. Not only do we want to look at your learning objectives and make sure they're very clearly defined, but the reviewers are also going to look at your proposal and how it addresses those learning objectives to meet and earn those outcomes. So think about it from the standpoint of what will the attendees know and be able to do after your session. They'll also be looking at the application of your content, looking for evidence of perhaps a research base, are there best practices, strategies? Is there a particular model that you're focused on? Again, really trying to build a framework for the content of your session. That's 15 points. Ensuring that your topic is current and relevant is also part of the evaluation process. We want to make sure that your content and your session has important content that's relevant to family and consumer sciences professionals in multiple content areas and across multiple practice settings. We'll also be looking to ensure that you have aligned with one of those conference strands. And when we think about those strands, let's stop for a moment and think about some of the examples. When we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, for example, we had sessions last year that were focusing on working with diverse learners. How do we work with Generation Z? Also looking at a collaborative approach, for example, to community health, and an equitable approach to community health. All of those titles and sessions would be very appropriate proposals for that particular session. When we think about leadership, engagement, and scholarship, we've had sessions about bylaws, leadership skills, engaging through certification and credentialing. Those are just a couple of topics that might fit within that strand. We'll be sure to share some additional examples with questions that you might have that fit in other strands. I know that when you look at those 5, you should be able to find something that you are doing, that you have expertise, you have success strategies and stories that you can share. And finally, our reviewers will be looking for the overall quality of the presentation. The tone, grammar, spelling. I know that sometimes it's helpful to even develop the proposal perhaps in a word processing system where you can look for grammar and spelling errors and then simply copy and paste that into the system. I know that seems pretty simple, but you'll be amazed at the number of proposals that we receive that have lots of misspelled words and grammar errors. So the reviewers have a lot of work to do to evaluate the many proposals that we receive. Each of the proposals will be reviewed by up to 5 peer reviewers. Once the reviewer scores are compiled, then we'll look at that list and determine the sessions that'll move into our conference program. So that tells you a little bit about the proposal itself and how it will be evaluated. So I'll turn it back over to Sandra.
Presenters will be notified by March 15th. There will be more details in email. And just keep in mind that all presenters are expected to register for the conference. So now it's time for our Q&A portion. Does anybody have any questions?
So I do have a question, and my name is Young-Ah Lee, and I'm a associate editor of the Family and Consumer Science Research Journal and the Housing. I'm also the faculty member at the Auburn University in Alabama. And so usually, the Family and Consumer Science Research Journal, the associate editor and then editor has usually propose the panel, the session, and it goes under often to the education and scholarship, in before. But this year I see, Sharon Devani actually recommended to go, put the proposal I am handling on behalf of all the AEs and then the journal this time, and suggesting that the leadership and then collaboration category may be more feasible. And I see that another session with the hashtag regarding the scholarship, that part at the end, under the theme. And is there any suggestion to the, it's more like the cases of the scenario about the more research ethical dilemma and research integrity, that topic we are going to dealing with, with the giving the example of the all different AEs housing the different institution, to sharing about the research ethics and then other things that involves the relationship with the graduate students, faculty, and among the faculty in the different pipeline. Hope my question is clear. Anybody can. So which team might be the best suited to?
I'll take that question, Sandra, if that's okay. I would suggest based on your description, there are actually a couple of strands that it would fall under. The leadership, engagement, collaboration, of course, but I really think it falls more under the hashtag FCS success, the research and scholarship, because it's going to really focus on the incorporation of graduate students into research, and then the ethical issues associated with research. So I really think that that's the one I would suggest.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to be clear, when I look at it, I thought that might be better fit, but Sharon suggested to go with the leadership. So I was unsure, if there's any best way to which one might be better. So. Okay.
It's certainly applicable to either one of those, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
This is Pat Hetrick. I'm representing ESAE. And I needed to know if we are doing any activities or events that we'd like to focus on, business meetings, etc. Is there a separate proposal for those items?
So Pat, the proposal submission system will accept 3 different types of proposals. So one of those is board and business meetings. So if your community, for example, would like to propose a meeting of your community, then you would submit under that particular category. And then we also have the community and group events. Of course, we've not finalized the schedule and what the program might look like. But if you have some suggestions and ideas for sessions for your particular group, then that's where you would submit those. The ed sessions are going to be more of the content, professional development pieces, if that helps.
Okay, and so they are all located in this same
Yes.
link. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, hi, my name is Lacey Bichetto. I'm from Utah State University, and I signed up to be a reviewer. And then after meeting with a colleague today, we may have a proposal idea. So when I signed up for reviewer, I didn't really know which category. I can't remember which category I signed up to review, and I just want to make sure that it's not the same category that I would put my proposal into. So is there any way I can find that information out, which one I signed up to review?
Yes, thank you, Lacey. If you will email the annual conf2 at aafcs.org, Sandra would be able to share with you which strands you signed up for, and so that you can confirm that. And then you can still submit in the other areas. We do also go back and double check after all the proposals come in, and make sure that we don't have any reviewers that also submitted in that area. So we would have caught it later on if you had submitted as a reviewer and a proposal, but you can certainly contact us ahead of time and we can go ahead and let you know what you signed up for and even go ahead and make that change in the system for you.
Okay, thank you. I'll save you the work and I'll make sure I do that for you. So thanks, appreciate that.
Sandra, maybe
reviewer is so important. So thank you for your interest in being a reviewer.
Maybe in the quiet time here before the next question comes in, I'll just remind everyone that last year during our virtual conference, we had mostly live presentations, and Sandra gave a nod to this when she was going through the various components of this year's event. But this year, we're going to accept folks' ability to record ahead of time and then be available just to answer questions. And so that's the luxury we have because we've started our process so much earlier this year. As you recall, last year, the pandemic started in March and we were scurrying around trying to figure out exactly what was going to happen. And so because we're starting earlier this year, it's giving people a really much more time to think about which they want to do. And that you may say today that you want to be live and something happens that it's better if you record. So anyway, we're really excited about that because sometimes people's travel or other things happen that would cause you to want to record. Either will be perfect. Sometimes you're more comfortable recording than speaking. We just want to make it as easy as possible for you so that you can share your information with our attendees. So just keep that in mind as you're thinking through how you'd like to present. Other questions from our group?
Well, as they are thinking about questions, again, we think about all of the different topics or sessions that maybe we have attended at various conferences. And we really want to expand and broaden the types of sessions that we have at our conference. So, it may be some research that you are doing right now, but it also might be some great classroom strategies. Some lesson plans. It may be something you're doing in your community with a community group. So again, as much as you can think about how you're relevant, the value of what you're doing in your particular program, and then how you can share that with literally colleagues across the country and even the world, because I know last year's virtual conference, we had a couple of international attendees. So we know that you've got some great things that you're doing out there in your work. And so you really do have the expertise to submit and to share that with our AAFCS world.
It sure is easy for all of us to think that whatever we might present on, everybody already knows about or they heard before. But honestly, our members always come up with great topics and great sessions. And so those of you that are willing, share this information with others, encourage other members to participate in this submission system, because we really are looking forward to making 2021 the best that we've ever had. And we think that there is a lot of opportunity for some of the current topics, but that should not overshadow some of our tried and true topics that we work on day in and day out. So please be as creative as you can, but just know that we're looking forward to receiving as many as we can. The system is not easy. It's easy to process. You've got Sandra that's can stand by and help you with any questions that you have available. And again, just really appreciate the fact that you are with us this evening and you're getting a jump start with us as we start to open the process and answer the questions.
So if there aren't any more questions, we just wanted to say as our last words, we encourage you to bring new and innovative ideas to annual conference. So now is the time to get excited and create that excitement for others. So we do look forward to receiving your submissions. And again, if you do have questions, please do email our inbox that showed on the slide. And I also put that in the chat box. So thank you again.